The following is a special video presentation from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. You are watching RJ Debates 2020. Here is your host, Steve Sebelius.
Welcome to RJ Debates 2020. I'm Steve Sebelius. In this debate series, we're talking with candidates for judicial office up and down the ballot. Tonight, we're going to talk to candidates for District Court in Department Number 17. Our candidates are as follows. Anna Albertson is the challenger in this race. She's an attorney in private practice. She's worked as a pro tem judge and is the founder of the Legal Angel Law Firm. The incumbent is Judge Michael Villani. He was appointed to office in 2007 and was elected in his own right in 2008 and again in 2014. We're going to begin, as we always do, with opening statements. We're going in alphabetical order at the start. So, Ms. Albertson, to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Steve. And thank you to the Review-Journal for setting this up. Also, thank you to the viewers for taking the time to learn about the candidates. It is so important which candidates we vote for in this election, because as we come out of this pandemic, the judges that are put in office are going to be making decisions that we will feel the ripple effects of for years to come. That being said, my name is Anna Albertson, and I'm running for Clark County District Court, Department 17. I'm a wife, a mother, an attorney, and a business owner. My business, as you said a moment ago, is called Legal Angel Law Office. Prior to opening my own business, I worked for large companies and large law firms. I am also a court-appointed short trial judge. I have previously been a court-appointed truancy court judge, and I'm a court-appointed arbitrator. I am running for Clark County District Court Department 17 because that department needs a fair and impartial judge, and I am that fair and impartial judge. So I hope I can earn your vote today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Albertson. Judge Villani, your opening statement.
Yes, thank you, Steve, and thank you to Las Vegas Review-Journal and all citizens of Clark County. I am Judge Michael Villani. I have been your judge in Department 17 for the last 13 and a half years. I am a 60-year resident of Clark County, Nevada. I am married. My wife is a school teacher for 25 years. We have 6 children, 7 grandchildren. So I have a vested interest in our community. I have a vested interest in having a strong judiciary. I was in private practice for 25 years before taking the bench, handling both civil and criminal cases. I started my career in the district attorney's office. After I left, I was in private practice, handling all areas of civil law. And even once during my civil practice, I was appointed as a special prosecutor for Clark County, Nevada. I took the bench in 2007, handling both civil and criminal cases. Presently, I am the chief criminal presiding judge, and I am one of only 4 judges who have been selected to be on the homicide team, handling all of the homicide cases that occur here in Clark County, Nevada. I appreciate your vote and your consideration during this debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go right to the first question, and it was sort of illuminated in the opening statements, and that's experience. Ms. Albertson, this question to you first. You have to admit that Judge Villani has been on the bench for, as he said, 13 and a half years, has a lot of experience in this court and behind the bench. Why run against a judge with that level of experience?
I'm running against my opponent because I tried a case in front of my opponent, and he demonstrated that he was willing to rewrite the law to the detriment of my African-American, female, low-income client. That's unacceptable. It is not a judge's role to rewrite the law, and definitely not to the disadvantage of a minority member of our community. So that's why, the main reason why I chose to run against my opponent. But since then, various attorneys and parties, individuals in the community have also come forward and told me how much they support my campaign because of additional rulings that my opponent has made that were fair and, that were unfair and not impartial.
Thank you, ma'am. Judge Villani, obviously, the value of practical hands-on experience is obvious, but is there not something to be said for fresh blood, new perspectives, a greater diversity on the bench?
Well, Steve, you talk about diversity. I am the first Hispanic criminal presiding judge in Clark County. So if you believe in diversity, I'm an example of that. And also, just briefly, it's inappropriate for me to discuss even a past case, and I'm not going to do that. I would mention that the case in question was the loss was unanimously affirmed by the Nevada Supreme Court, but I am running on my record. And my record shows that I am a thoughtful judge, and I have, since taking the bench, pulled every single Nevada Supreme Court opinion, every single Court of Appeals opinion, dealing with opinions, orders of affirmance, writs of mandamus, petitions for judicial review. I am consistently affirmed over 90% each and every year I have been on the bench. So I have a proven track record. I do not base decisions on personalities, who the parties are. I base it upon the law and the facts of the case. And my affirmance rate with the Nevada Supreme Court and Court of Appeals bears that out.
Thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate that. Now both of you applied for appointment to the bench. Judge Villani, you applied before you were eventually appointed, and Ms. Albertson, you have also applied for appointment to the bench. Having gone through that process, which do you think is better, the election that you're going through right now or the appointment process to get good quality judges on the bench?
All right, thank you. Well, as you had mentioned, I am a product of both scenarios. In 2007, I was one of 3 finalists out of 17 applicants that applied for the Department 17 position. I was selected as one of those finalists. As you know, that panel is chaired by the Chief Justice of the Nevada Supreme Court. So I became a finalist, and I was interviewed by the governor, and the governor selected me. The panel encompasses individuals from Northern Nevada, Southern Nevada, business leaders, state bar leaders, and attorneys throughout the state. They're on that panel. And so I think they take into consideration your background and your experience. But on the other hand, I know we don't want to take the vote away from our community, but we have to make sure that we do have qualified applicants. I think the selection process guarantees that we do, in fact, have qualified applicants and qualified individuals on the bench.
Ms. Albertson, your thoughts on that? Election or appointment, which is the better process to get good quality judges?
The appointment process relies heavily on connections, political connections, and ties. That's not exactly a fair process. The election process, although candidates do have to raise money, and there are issues with that as well, it does limit some people from participating. It is the better of the 2 processes. We've also got some issues recently, even with some people who sit on the appointment board, and some problems that they have had that have actually been in the review journal. So I would lean heavily toward the election process over the appointment process. It allows people to speak for who they want in office, and that is incredibly important.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to take a brief break, but we will be right back with more questions and answers for candidates for District Court Department 17 as RJ Debates 2020 continues.
Get ready for every Raiders game with us. Vegas Nation Game Day will give you everything you need to know about each week's matchup.
I'm excited.
Sundays at 9 a.m. starting in September on YourView. Vegas Nation Game Day coming this September.
All your listeners and followers, the best name of any podcast in the world is podcast.
Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever faked
Not that we
their
know
death.
of.
No.
When you work with Prince, you got to get used to the fact that he changes musicians like underwear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Tom Brady.
Who?
And Tom Brady, he's a quarterback in the Boston area.
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Welcome back to RJ Debates 2020. We're speaking with candidates for District Court Department number 17. Our next question goes to you, Ms. Albertson, first. Is there a case or a client or a situation in your legal career that you wish you could do all over again?
Well, you can look at every case and every situation and probably find things you could redo or do differently when you look at it, in the past, like when you get to look at all of it. So I wouldn't say there's any specific case, but I would say I think there's always room for improvement with everything anyone does. And I do always strive to continue improving and look at things that I could do differently or better, even in the cases that have turned out favorably to my clients, because there's always room to make changes and make some needed improvements.
All right, thank you, Judge Villani. Any rulings you regret, or anything in your legal career before the bench that you wish you could get a do-over on?
Well, every judge on the bench wants to be affirmed 100% of the time. And so, and I mentioned earlier, I've retained every single decision from the Nevada Supreme Court because I review those, I study those, because I always want to move forward. I don't want to make a similar mistake. And I think that goes to my affirmance rate of always in the 90 percentile. Every decision I make, whether it's in trial, a split decision for evidentiary ruling, a ruling for a motion, is always based upon my best interpretation of the facts and the law of the particular case, particular issue. And as you know, Steve, in a trial, the judges have a split second to overrule or sustain an objection. And I've had trials 5.5 weeks long. You can imagine the number of objections that occurred in a 5.5 week trial. And so, every decision I make, whether it's a split decision or a decision that I take under advisement or one during oral argument, I have to, give my best effort to just apply the law and the facts to a particular case. And I've always done that, and I will continue to do that.
I appreciate that answer. We'll go to our next question, and Judge Villani, this goes to you first. We're obviously in a very unique cultural moment in American history right now. I'm wondering if you believe that there is a systemic, disparate treatment of certain people in the judicial system, especially people of color.
Well, obviously, we are no longer have laws that specifically discriminate against particular races. Jim Crow laws, the laws you couldn't have interracial marriages. Thank God those laws are gone. But we have to make sure that judges in the court system don't base decisions upon race. I have never based a decision on race. I base it upon the law and the facts of the case. And interesting, Steve, I think I'm the only judge when preparing the calendar for sentencing. I have a particular system that I don't even look at the name or the race of the individual, which is on page 1 and 2 of the pre-sentence investigation report. I go to the heart of the report. My calendar is strictly numbers, not names, because I don't even want to know the person's name. I don't want to know the race, their age, or anything. I want to go to the facts of the case, the negotiations, the person's criminal record, and I make my notes at that time, and then and only then I'll make sure that the numbering system matches up with the names. So my decisions on all criminal cases have never been based upon race because I don't know what the race is. I don't know what the name is until after I've already made my notes regarding the upcoming decision I'll make in court.
Interesting. Thank you for that answer. Ms. Albertson, what do you think? Is there systemic, disparate treatment in the court system?
Well, I think my opponent's answer demonstrated some of the issues we have. I don't think people are confronting their own prejudices and biases appropriately or properly or even acknowledging them. That needs to change. We need a lot more training. This attitude like I don't have any biases or prejudices is simply not true. We all have biases and prejudices, and we need to learn about them. We need to explore them. We need to acknowledge that we have them. The answer my opponent gave is a prime example of what we need to start to avoid. Everybody has biases and prejudices. We've got to acknowledge them, learn about them, and figure out how we keep those out of our decision-making process.
All right. This next question, Ms. Albertson, will go to you next. Do you believe that all citizens currently have equal access to the justice system? And if not, is there anything that you could do as a judge to ensure that their access is more equal?
I think judges have a duty to ensure that all citizens have at least fair access to justice. And I do that in my own courtroom as a short trial judge. I make sure that citizens who appear before me, parties who appear before me, have a fair and impartial judge. I also do a good amount of pro bono work in my private practice. I've also, as I said in the beginning, worked as a truancy court judge. And that's going into schools and working with students to make sure they understand how to access the system, to make sure they understand what educational tools are there to help them through the process, because I don't think people have equal access right now, but I do think it's the duty of the judiciary, of the bench, of all the attorneys to do what they can to make changes in that arena. And I have done that in my own practice, and I do that sitting on the bench as a short trial judge.
Thank you very much. Judge Villani, what do you think? Is there a consistent access to justice for everybody?
Well, Steve, as you mentioned before, I just want to briefly address something. My opponent mentioned that my answer regarding racial bias shows an error or shows a disconnect. Apparently she didn't hear what I said. I don't look at the name of the person. I don't look at the race of the person. How much more race neutral can you get without looking at the race, the gender of the person? I look at just the facts of the particular case. Now, as far as access to justice, as you know, in the criminal field, if you can't afford an attorney, you get a public defender, some very fine attorneys in a public defender's office. And if there's a conflict there, we have a court-appointed attorney system and a track system. And so I was a track attorney for 9 years prior to taking the bench. So I provided access through the system for individuals who could not afford an attorney. And as you know, in the civil field, there's very expensive. So we have a pro bono project. We have court-appointed attorneys. We have attorneys that you can get through the State Bar in Nevada. And so there are access to that. But unfortunately, litigation gets very expensive, and people, if they don't have a lot of financial means, they do have difficulties.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to have to interrupt you there. I apologize for doing so, but we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more questions and answers. Candidates in District Court, Department 17.
With so much excitement building around the Raiders and their inaugural season in Las Vegas, the fans want to be heard. The launch of Vegas Nation Fan Zone is their answer. That's right, Raiders fans can sound off on all things Raiders, from players to coaches to even the new Allegiant Stadium. Vegas Nation Fan Zone is accessible 24/7 and allows fans to generate and upload their own posts for lively interaction. Simply go to fanzone.vegasnation.com to sign up today.
Welcome back to RJ Debates 2020. We're talking with candidates for District Court Department number 17. Our next question goes to Judge Villani first. What problems did you encounter after your private practice law career, representing in the district attorney's office as well as in private practice, switching over to be a neutral judge?
Well, no matter how much experience you have, there is a learning curve. And I was excited to have the job. And, one of the things you had to look at is no longer being an advocate, but being a neutral magistrate, being an umpire, calling balls and strikes. But Steve, as you may know, prior to taking the bench, I was an arbitrator I have handled over 357 arbitrations. I was an alternate municipal court judge. I was a justice of the peace pro tem. I was a small claims court judge. I was appointed by the State Bar in Nevada to the Fee Dispute Committee for 6 years. And I was appointed by the State Bar in Nevada to the Disciplinary Committee. So I had a lot of experience coming into the bench of hearing matters, making decisions, ruling on cases. But again, there is a learning curve, and there's a lot of behind the scenes things that judges have to do. And so I think I fit well into my new job, but there's always a learning curve, and I think I learn something new every day.
Ms. Albertson, you've also worked as a pro tem judge and done things like that. What problems do you think you would have transitioning from an advocate for your clients to a neutral arbiter?
I think that's a great question. I have already made that transition because, as I stated, I work as a pro tem judge and a truancy court judge. I also have been an arbitrator since 2014. As far as my experience goes, I have extensive trial experience, which is very, very helpful on the bench, as I've noticed in my work as a pro tem judge. I probably have more experience than most of the other candidates on the ballot combined as far as trial experience, and that is incredibly important for a trial judge to have. So that's a huge benefit as a judge. I also think we need to look at my opponent was only licensed for 11 years when he first became a neutral. I've been licensed far more than 11 years at this point, and I am on my way to become a judge. I've already been a short trial judge and a truancy court judge.
All right, thank you very much for that answer. We appreciate it. We're going to take our final break, and we'll be back with more with candidates for District Court Department 17 right after this. Stay with us.
Alexa, play my flash briefing.
Here's what's new in today's news.
Stay in the loop of the latest information in the Las Vegas Valley with the Las Vegas Review-Journal Flash Briefing. Every day, we will provide you with everything you need to know from news, business, weather, entertainment, and sports. Go to the Alexa app and search LVRJ News Briefing. Then say, Alexa, play my flash briefing to hear 3 minutes of the most important information in Las Vegas.
The Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app, check out vegasnation.com, and stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
Welcome back to RJ Debates 2020. We've come to the part of our debate where we hear closing statements from the candidates. We're going to go in reverse alphabetical order, and that means Judge Villani, you go first.
All right, thank you, Steve, and thank you to the citizens of Clark County for their time viewing this video of Meet the Candidates. This race is about experience and a proven track record, and I have that experience and a proven track record. I am proud of the fact that I am the only candidate endorsed by every single trade union in our community. I am endorsed by the firefighters, law enforcement, Latin Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic in Politics, Nevada Veterans Association, most recently the Culinary Union. But I'm just not running on the endorsement. I'm running on my track record. I made a promise when I took the bench that I'd be one of the hardest working judges. I have conducted the second highest number of jury trials of all judges for the last 13 and a half years. In 2018, I had the #1 clearance rate of all judges on the bench. I am consistently affirmed by the Nevada Supreme Court in the 90th percentile each and every year. And so I have a proven record. I have the experience, and I appreciate your vote and your support, and I look forward to another 6 years on the bench serving my community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Albertson, your closing statement.
Yes, thank you very much to the Review Journal for this opportunity. This race is about what we'll do on the bench. And my opponent has shown what he will do on the bench. He has a 71% retention rating given to him by the Review Journal. That means he has a C- rating. If I had a C- rating in college or in law school, I would have been risking losing my scholarships and losing my position on sports teams I was on. That is unacceptable. My opponent has also shown in the cases that do go up on appeal, the ones that are turned back to him, one of them specifically, if we're going to use it as an example, and we should, was a dismissal of a sexual assault case. That sends a very important message to the community as to how much he's going to protect the community to dismiss a sexual assault case. That is unacceptable. That, combined with rewriting the law in the case I had in front of him, it warrants his replacement. Okay, and I put my name on the ballot because I'm going to be a fair and impartial judge in that position in Department 17. So I do ask for your vote. I ask that you consider me and look at his record, okay, because this is showing the record. And consider what you do on the bench.
So we're going to have to end it at that point. That's our debate. My thanks to both of our candidates for a very spirited debate and for participating. You can stay up to date on all the 2020 political news on our website. It's www.reviewjournal.com. Join us next time as our debate series continues. Until then, for the Las Vegas Review Journal, I'm Steve Sebelius.